Welcome to Dormiveglia. This is where sleep begins to make sense. Stay as long as you like. There was a time when your body told you when to sleep, and you listened. Not because you were more disciplined, not because you were more in tune with nature in some vague, poetic sense, but because there was very little choice. The rhythms of light and dark governed everything. When the sun rose, the day began. When it set, the possibilities of activity narrowed sharply. The heaviness of the eyes, the loosening of the muscles, the quieting of the mind. These were simply what happened, and the response was rest. This alignment between the body's internal rhythms and the rhythms of the external world was not a luxury. It was the default. For most of human history, people did not decide when to feel sleepy. They simply noticed when they did, and acted accordingly. There is evidence from pre-industrial communities and from studies of groups living without electric light today that people in this alignment sleep and wake on a schedule that would strike most modern people as both earlier and more natural. They are tired when it is genuinely dark. They are alert when genuine light arrives. The body's two systems, the one that tracks time of day and the one that tracks how long you have been awake, are working in coordination, rather than in the constant mild tension that characterizes most modern lives. The reason your sleep feels difficult, the reason you are sometimes tired at 8 and wired at midnight, is often not that something is wrong with you. It is that two extremely well-designed biological systems are being asked to work in conditions they were not built for. They are doing their best, but they were designed for a world that, in many ways, no longer exists. Understanding how these two systems work, what they are, how they interact, and where modern life puts pressure on both, is the beginning of working with your own biology rather than against it. Your sleep is governed by two forces that work independently of each other, but they must cooperate for you to feel truly well-rested. The first force is called sleep pressure, and it is mechanical in its simplicity. From the moment you wake, your brain begins producing a chemical called adenosine, a byproduct of the cellular activity that happens during every waking hour. As adenosine accumulates, it binds to receptors in the brain that produce the physical sensation of sleepiness. The longer you have been awake, the more adenosine has built up, and the more intensely you feel the need to sleep. After a full night of sleep, adenosine is cleared, and you wake with the pressure released. This system is purely a clock of wakefulness. It does not know what time it is. It only knows how long you have been up. If you were to stay awake for 30 hours, the pressure would be enormous. Not because of the time of day, but simply because of the accumulated hours without rest. The second force is the circadian rhythm. Your internal clock, calibrated by light, that keeps your body synchronized with the 24-hour cycle of the day. This rhythm governs not just sleep, but almost every biological process: body temperature, hormone release, digestion, immune function. It rises and falls in a daily arc, with peaks of alertness and troughs of reduced functioning that occur at specific times. Regardless of how long you have been awake, the circadian rhythm produces a natural dip in alertness in the early afternoon, often misinterpreted as a reaction to lunch, but actually a feature of the clock itself, present even if you have not eaten. It also produces a strong push toward wakefulness in the evening, a second wind that keeps you alert even when adenosine has been building for many hours. What makes sleep work well is the coordination of these two forces. Ideally, adenosine has built up to a significant level just as the circadian rhythm begins its nighttime descent toward sleep. They meet at the same moment, and the result is a powerful, unified pressure toward rest, the kind of sleepiness that feels inevitable rather than forced. What makes sleep difficult is when they are out of phase. When you take a nap at the wrong time, you clear adenosine without the circadian rhythm being ready to support a full descent into sleep. You wake from the nap feeling groggy, but then struggle to sleep at night. When you travel across time zones, your circadian rhythm is still set to a different day, while your adenosine is building on local time. When you sleep late at weekends, you disrupt the circadian anchor while the adenosine slate has been wiped clean. And Sunday night becomes miserable. The two systems are robust and resilient, but they work best when given consistent conditions and the light signals they need to stay calibrated. Here is the single most effective thing you can do for the coordination of your two sleep systems. And it costs nothing. Pick a wake time and hold it. Not just on weekdays, not just when the alarm is set. 7 days a week, the same hour, within about 30 minutes of variation either way. This one habit is the anchor that keeps your circadian rhythm calibrated. When your wake time is consistent, your body knows exactly where in the 24-hour cycle it is. It can predict with precision when to begin producing melatonin, when to allow the descending sleep signal to begin, when to prepare for morning alertness. The whole biological clock is tuned by this single repeated cue. When the wake time varies, an hour later at weekends, 2 hours later on holidays, the circadian rhythm drifts. The body is no longer certain where in the cycle it is. Melatonin arrives unpredictably. The descending sleep signal is out of phase with the adenosine buildup. The result is Sunday night insomnia, Monday morning fog, and a week that begins already behind. The adjustment feels significant at first, particularly if you are accustomed to recovering weekend sleep. But most people who establish a consistent wake time find that within 2 to 3 weeks, their natural sleep onset also stabilizes. They begin to feel genuinely tired at the same time each evening. The two systems have aligned. You do not need to sacrifice your Sunday morning to this principle. You simply need to choose a wake time that you can hold consistently and treat it as a commitment to your own biology. Here is the second tool, one that most people use every day without understanding how it actually works or why the timing matters so much. Caffeine does not give you energy. What it does is block the receptors in the brain that adenosine binds to. When caffeine occupies those receptors, adenosine cannot attach to them, and the signal of sleepiness cannot reach its destination. You do not feel less tired in any fundamental sense. The adenosine is still there, still building. You simply cannot feel it for a while. This matters because caffeine has a half-life of roughly 5 to 7 hours in the average person. If you drink a cup of coffee at 2 in the afternoon, half of that caffeine is still active in your bloodstream at 7 or 8 in the evening. A quarter of it is still there at midnight, and while it sits in your brain blocking the adenosine receptors, your body cannot feel the sleep pressure that has been building all day. The result is that you may lie down at 10:30 feeling wired rather than tired. Unable to understand why. Not realizing that the coffee you drank 8 hours ago is still sitting in your brain, telling it that it is not allowed to feel the tiredness that has been accumulating for 16 hours. The practical instruction is simple, but requires honesty. Track your caffeine cutoff time. For most people, a cutoff of 12 to 2 in the afternoon is enough to ensure that very little caffeine remains active at sleep time. If you are particularly sensitive to caffeine, or if you have trouble sleeping, move the cutoff earlier. Some people do best cutting off by noon. The morning cup remains yours. The afternoon cup is the one worth examining. Thank you for watching. If this gave you something worth carrying into sleep, please subscribe. New episodes arrive every week, just before the threshold.